Dear friends, welcome to another episode of the new video podcast series of RCS Cyprus, titled Meet the Royal Commonwealth Society and the Commonwealth. In this episode, we're introducing the Commonwealth Short Story Prize, a writing competition for the Commonwealth citizens. The prize is awarded annually for the best piece of published short fiction. The Commonwealth Short Story Prize is managed by Commonwealth Writers, the cultural initiative of the Commonwealth Foundation, which was set up to inspire, develop, and connect writers and storytellers across the Commonwealth. Today, we're hosting Constantia Soteriou and Nikolas Kyriakou, two participants from Cyprus in the Commonwealth Short Story competition. Constantia Soteriou was born in Nicosia. Her first novel, I Shall Goes on Vacation, received the Athens Prize for Literature. Her second book, Voices Made of Soil, was included in the short list for the Cyprus and Greece Literature Awards. Her third book, Bitter Country, was among the shortlisted books for the European Union Prize for Literature 2020. Her story, of course, Death Customs, was the winning entry from Canada and Europe and the overall winner of the 2019 Commonwealth Short Story Prize. Nikolas Kyriakou, the second discussant, was born in Greece and grew up in Cyprus. He holds a PhD in law, and after working as a lawyer in Cyprus, he moved to Luxembourg, where he is currently working at the Court of Justice of the European Union. He is the author of the book 10+1 Myth for the Cyprus Problem, published in 2020. Nikolas Kyriakou has been shortlisted for the Commonwealth Writers Short Story Prize 2020 for the story The Debt, written in Greek and translated into English by Lina Protopapou. Dear Constantia, dear Nikolas, let me thank you for accepting my invitation and welcome to the RCS first video podcast series.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Marinos. It's also a pleasure to find myself in the company of Constantia.
So I will begin our discussion with Constantia. So Constantia, how did you discover the Commonwealth Short Story Prize? Are you involved in any other Commonwealth-related activities?
Well, I actually found out searching the internet, and because for me as a writer, I thought it was important to open my horizons and find ways to hear to make my voice being heard. So I thought that this was a very good opportunity. And I was very interested in it because of the large participation of writers among the big Commonwealth family. Actually, this was last year's participation was not my first one. I tried to participate 2 years ago without any success, but I said I will give it another try. The reason that I decided to try again was that I was allowed this time to participate in Greek. So I found it a lot easier to do this. It is much easier to write in your language, and you never know how the translation will be. So I give it a try and I have a very good result.
Well, for me, yes. For me, I think I have a similar story compared to the one that Constantia just told us. I found the call for the CSSP prize on the internet, on social media, and by accident, and that was a point of curiosity on my side to see what participating in such a competition would look like. So I already had a short story on the site in one of my drawers that I had already prepared, drafted for the purposes of a creative writing seminar that I was following the year before. And I decided to submit that, and I was very lucky, just as Constantia, to have Lina as our translator to make a fantastic translation of the story from Greek to English. And managed to get myself into the candidates for the regional prize.
So I believe in both cases, the competition was the reason for you to search and learn more about the Commonwealth.
Yes, actually, I didn't have a lot of knowledge of the Commonwealth, except of the basic information, we receive at school. But after this competition, I tried to find out more about it. And I was quite surprised to see all the values of the competition, not only the competition, sorry, all the values of the Commonwealth that were involved in the competition. And we're talking about values that where I'm very interested as well, like the human rights or women's issues. So I found it very interesting that the Commonwealth do such a work and is interested about minorities and about the rights of special people, and that a lot of people in Cyprus are not aware about it. Okay, I was saying that I didn't have I didn't have like a deep knowledge about the Commonwealth, and finding out about this prize actually helped me learn more about the Commonwealth in general, and knowing that there is a lot of work done as regards human rights and women issues and missing people. And these are the the topics I'm very interested, not only as a person, but particularly as a writer. And another thing about the Commonwealth Writers group, it was very interesting to find out that covers a big range of writers that are really interested in writing about the stories of their countries, what they have in common with is like the British colonization, what effect that had in the life of the countries and in their own lives. So I think it was very interesting to see Commonwealth under a new aspect, and it was really interesting and important for me. And I think a lot of people in Cyprus don't really know a lot about what Commonwealth is.
Thank you, Constantia. Nikolas, were you aware about Commonwealth before your participation in this competition?
Well, I will just pick up on something that Constantia said at the end of her own intervention, in that the Commonwealth as an institution, as an organization, is not quite known in our country. I had some knowledge about its existence and operation at some point at the very early stages of my professional life. I worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus, but that was at the time that Cyprus was already a member of the European Union and had exited the Commonwealth. So I did know some of the political aspect of the work and the historical significance of the Commonwealth for Cyprus. But I missed the part that Constantia was just saying about the further aspects of the work of the Commonwealth and how it has managed to redefine itself in the 21st century, dealing with issues of contemporary concern and interest. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that the competition for the short stories was in place, and in a way, I think it's partly a privilege to be able to participate, since this is the competition is open to citizens of states of the Commonwealth. So here we are to be in this fantastic opportunity, myself this year, and the other year before, to participate in a competition of this sort, which gives you visibility, I think, to some parts of the world that one would not expect to, and it's really a nice thing to be able to connect in this sense with others. By way of example, I would say that my participation in the competition gave me the opportunity to connect through social media, mainly with people from many other countries, especially Africa, and that was something I really valued from my experience with participating in the competition.
So now, Constantia, how was your overall experience from the competition, and of course from your participation to the award ceremony?
Yeah. Well, the whole experience was fantastic, of course. I think the most important thing for me is that all the regional winners in 2019, we were all women, and we deal with women's issues. So this was very important for me, that it was fascinating to realize that 5 women from 5 parts of the world who are not really connected have similar issues to deal about, and all these issues are about women's itself, how the historical background affected their life, and how it is to be a woman in our century. And this was very important for me, because knowing these women and exchange our stories, not only what we wrote, but our personal stories and our stories as writers, was very important for me. I think I managed to see some things in another aspect, and at the same time, it is very useful and important, you know, to see that the struggles of other women's writing and all the problems we face as women who write. And this was it was very special opportunity for me. A part of that, I had the opportunity to travel to Canada and visit Quebec. Actually, the award ceremony of last year was during these days, and it was a fantastic trip. I don't think I will ever have the opportunity to go to Quebec. It was great to see another culture, to have the opportunity to participate in the actual ceremony, which included native people of Canada. It was important to meet with writers of Quebec who face a lot of problems as regards the fact that they write in French, and how they try to find their self in the bigger Canadian identity, you know, in Canada. And I found a lot of similarities with that, with me being a Greek Cypriot, writing in Greek and publishing my work in Greece. So it's good to see the struggle of other writers. It's good to see the struggles as regards the language, because I write in the Cyprus Greek dialect as well. These are important lessons. They are things that writers should be able to share with each other. So I think this is what all this competition, this Commonwealth Writers Group is about: exchanging views, exchanging ideas, talks about your own struggles. And just for this, not only all the trips and how we met with all these people, just for this is very important. And it was very important for me.
Thank you, Constantia. Nikolas, what about your experience from the competition?
Well, I found the experience to have to include many things. So I found it obviously interesting, very informative, funny at many instances. So first of all, I think what I would like to highlight is the professionalism and the availability of the people running the competition itself. The fact that they kept the whole procedure running on a very smooth terms, and always being available, providing guidance at every stage of the competition. I found that to be extremely valuable, and I wanted to thank them for what they have done throughout this year's competition. I guess they must be the same people, more or less, that were around when Constantia was participating as well in the competition. The other thing is that, and that goes back to one of the points that I mentioned before about how this, and something that Constantia also mentioned, how participating in the competition of this type opens so many windows and gives you so many opportunities to meet up and with other people and to learn about their stories, read their stories, and expose yourself to the different idioms, I would say, that exist in writing, in the world of writing. So, for example, for me, it was very, very interesting. I was very intrigued by the opportunity to read the stories of the other contestants of this year's competition, and try to read, try to understand, try to feel the stories that and the background that exists in their stories. And that relates very much with what Constantia was saying about visiting a foreign country, being able to meet up with people that live there and really get to have a deep look in their lives and their situation. And the funny aspect of the participation was the fact that this year, I don't know if that was also a characteristic for past years, was that we were asked to produce a short video presentation about ourselves and our work. I was very, very lucky to have the assistance and technical advice of my partner, and we found ourselves at midnight trying to, after the kids were asleep, obviously, to set up the whole thing and have a technically acceptable presentation for that sort. And it was quite funny to spend some time, the two of us, trying to prepare that. So I'm just full of gratitude for the opportunity to participate and have the experience, even for that little bit of preparation for the competition.
Yeah. I just want to say, Marino, that under like this year's circumstances with COVID-19 and everything, the way they handled the competition and the award ceremony was amazing, and we have to congratulate them for this. Those short films, Nikola, that you participated were so interesting, and it was very nice to see the people just give information about themselves and their story. I think this is what all this Commonwealth family is about. And I really think that they handled the whole thing gratefully. And the award ceremony was really nice.
I totally agree with all your comments, and allow me to add that one of the main aspects of the Commonwealth, and of course our institution as the Royal Commonwealth Society, is to promote connectivity among the people. And I believe, as you mentioned, all these kind of projects, competition, promote this connectivity and give opportunities to people to meet each other, either from other countries, either from other continents. Allow me now to proceed with my next question about your stories. So, Nikolas, I will begin with you. Would you like to tell us more about the plot of your story?
Yeah, well, it's a story that I think shares quite a lot with what Constantia wrote also previously, and it relates to the issue of missing persons, disappeared persons in general. I tried to write a story that does not liaise, does not connect with any particular historical circumstance, and I tried to avoid any sort of attempt, from my side at least, to identify with any of the contemporary conflicts that exist around the world. The idea about writing this specific story came from my studies as a human rights lawyer, where for some period of time I dealt with missing persons cases, and I found myself writing in a more literature environment rather than a legal environment about this issue. And I wanted to recount the story of all the parties involved, not just the story of the victim, not just the story of one side, but I tried to see who are all these people that are involved in this type of situations and crimes. So the story has 4 persons, 4 characters that have more or less the same time, the same space to present, to talk about what they have done and what they have thought during during a specific case of a missing person. So I try, let's say, in a cinematographic type of way to turn the lens each time to the perspective of each and everyone. And I think that what's also what I wanted to do is not just, as I said, not just see the victim side, but also see in the eyes of the perpetrator as well. Because I think that gives you a fuller understanding of a particular situation. And then I think that the story itself, our stories connect more broadly with larger issues that also fall into the ambit, into the borders of interest of the Commonwealth as well. So I think that in a way, we ticked all the boxes in that perspective.
Thank you, Nikolas. Constantia, your story deals with similar topic. Would you like to elaborate more on that?
Yes. Well, my story is about Spasula, and her last night at this world is the time that she's like, I'm talking about the night that she's dying, and the fact that she's accompanied with a lot of women that try to ease her way to the other side. They are her friends, her neighbors, women that they stood with her in her whole life, and women that supported her to carry the burden of being the mother of a missing person in Cyprus. So I really tried to see how these women live at the world of Cyprus. And another thing that I try to tell through my stories is I try to see how women in Cyprus see the historical facts. I think that the history, like the official version of history, the ones that we are taught at schools, and what it is called the official history of Cyprus, it is a male issue, it's written by men. I think nobody asks women what is going on, especially in Cyprus. So I really tried, and I'm trying through my stories to tell the women's version of things. And I think it's very important to make women in Cyprus visible and to give them a place to speak and be heard. And otherwise, in a very different way from what are seen in society. As I said, they are seen as heroes, as the mothers, or as the person they suffered. What I'm trying to say is that they participated in the events and they have an opinion about the events, and they have to say their version of the story. And this is very important for me as a writer. And I think this is one of the main aspects that made my story to distinguish among the other stories.
Thank you, Constantia. So I think that your comments lead us to my next question, which about the ideas and the messages of your stories. Is there any link with the messages and ideas you describe of your stories with the Commonwealth Writers? Nikolas, would you like to begin?
Yes, yes. I think the link from at least from my story to the values, purposes, and goals of the Commonwealth relate broadly to the idea of human rights and of people and peoples coming together in search of peace and security. Mainly, the point about the human rights comes out in different respects. It comes out as an obligation of the states to do something, both to prevent the violation of human rights, but also to provide a remedy once a violation has taken place. Additionally, I think, not legally speaking, but at least in a more moral and philosophical level, I would say that we all, as individuals, owe to others, respect for their own human rights, and that we should strive to protect these human rights and promote them, and obviously avoid anything that would lead to their violation. And then the broader context where cases of missing persons arise is the context of conflict, either international conflicts or civil wars. So that resonates more broadly with the Commonwealth's function, aim to promote peace and security in the world as a forum of states coming together to have mutually beneficial exchanges, being a forum of dialogue, and promoting the ideas that we have mentioned throughout our discussion. So yes, I think that the story, although it was not written for the purpose of submitting it to the to this particular competition, it matched, I think, the overall ideological and philosophical orientation of the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Nikolas. Constantia, what about in your case?
Yes, I think for me the Commonwealth means see the humans behind a story, see the human aspect behind a historical event. What happened to people after, behind the historical lines, behind the official events of something. And to add to what Nikolas said, I think my story tried to go behind the line of human rights. I mean, what human rights are about, like seeing deep inside. It's about how the people of this, how the lives of these people were destroyed, how the fate of a whole generation was destroyed. So I think the Commonwealth values gives you the opportunity to recover in a way, and this is how literature helps people in a way to recover from all this trauma that happened because of the war and the conflicts that happened. And I just want to say that I didn't write this story as well in order to participate in the Commonwealth Prize competition. It was part of the novel I was writing at the time. But reading about other competitors and other people's stories, I realized that, like them, I was writing about the conflicts and the drama of my country. And this was a big connection between me and those writers. So I thought that make some changes in the story will fit in the competition as well.
Thank you very much both for your answers. So I know that in both cases your stories have been translated in English in order to be eligible, of course, for the competition. So my question is, how important is the role of translator? And we know that you had the same translator What are the biggest challenges in this procedure? Nikolas?
Well, to be honest, I didn't come to realize to think about the aspect of what challenges the translation poses to a writer that chooses to submit the story in his native language, or at least not in English. I only came to understand it once I received the first draft from Lina, who did a fantastic work with translating the story I had produced. I think that languages beyond the capacity to convey a message in a clear and concise manner also carry with them very particular idioms, very specific peculiarities that allow the reader to have a much deeper understanding and a different flavor of what the story is about. And I think that if one was to put the two stories, the two versions of the story side by side, the Greek version would be much more appealing in the sense that it manages to convey in a more subtle way the agony that surrounds the issue of missing persons in general. On the other hand, I think that what Lina did, and I think that's the role of one of the roles that the translator has, is to be in a position to pass on, to recreate the atmosphere, to recreate the sense that prevails in a text in the original language into another language, in this case English. So I think much praise goes to Lina for doing an excellent job with translating the story into English.
Nikolas, Constantia?
Yes, I think that Lina, she did an amazing job, and I think I own her part of the win, because she really, did what, as Nikolas said, Lina was able to give the sense of the story. She was able to give the whole idea, not only the message that every story carries, but the sense and the atmosphere. And what I truly wanted to say, she managed to transform it in another language. And I think this is not something that everybody is able to do. It's not about speaking English. It's about being able to understand a story, to speak literature, if I may say so. So because Lina, in my case, she's very familiar with women's issues. She's very familiar with the Cyprus problem. I think she knew what I was talking about. She knew what I wanted to say. That's why she was able to make the translation to be that good. And I think another issue is that we share the same values with Lina as regards the aspects that are important for me as a writer. So I think that's why she was able to do such a fantastic work with my story. And another thing, as I said, part of the story was the dialect, the Cyprus dialect. So for me, it was an issue how somebody will be able to translate this in English. And I think Lina translated the Cypriot language part in English, but in a way that somebody is able to understand that this is not the common Greek. I mean, being able to give the sense of another version of the language that you wrote the story is very important and speaks a lot about the person that made the translation. And it's a shame that she's not today with us to share her experience as well.
I'm sure that in our next episode, maybe we're going to have the chance to host Lina in order to give share with you about, the role of translator. Now, my last question is about the competition. So, will you encourage writers to participate in this competition? And with that, I would like also to have your message, especially to youth and their involvement with literature.
Nikolas, you or me?
Yes.
Well, I'm not good in giving messages in that way. I think that it's important to be visible, and it's important to open your horizons and be heard by other people and by other writers. And as a Greek speaking writer, I think it's very difficult to be heard and to be seen. So I think it's very important to embrace such a competition that gives you such a great opportunity to be known. Because, especially in Greek book industry, let's say, translating your books, make your voice being heard in another language is extremely difficult. So I don't think that we have a lot of opportunities as Greek writers to have chances to have our work translated. And I think this is great. I mean, these are some of the few opportunities that we have, and we should embrace it and follow. And I will very much encourage everybody to participate in this competition, just for the experience of it, and just for proving that we are good writers, we are able to compete in such a great level with other writers in the world. I think just for the sake of it, it's good to participate, it's good to make yourself heard, and it's good to be part of the Commonwealth family, because we share a lot of values, we share a lot of history, we share a lot of feelings, and all these are put down in writing. And I think this is the most important thing of being a writer, being able to share your experience and talk about them. So yes, participate in this competition. It's totally worth it.
Nikolas?
I'm not a professional writer. I'm not aspiring to be one. So I don't have the inspirational speech to make to any potential sort of interested persons to do anything of the sort. But I think that if at some point in your life you have an idea that keeps eating your mind and keeping its current in the things you do and the things that occupy your mind, participating in a competition of this sort really gives you the opportunity to get down and do it, in the sense that there's a time schedule. Probably there's an incentive to do that, not just the ones that we've said, but also the prospect of being shortlisted, or even just like Constantia, being selected for the award. And then it may also provide you with a theme to write about, and you find yourself within a familiar boundaries in known territories. And the other thing is that writing about things actually is not just a journey towards the world, it's not just a journey towards meeting other people. It's also about digging inside yourself. I think that Constantia, with her own writing experience, can also confirm this. It's not about sitting down and writing a draft in one sitting in just 2, 3, 8 hours, but it's about writing and rewriting and working on many different drafts and trying to polish your story as much as possible to have the end result. That's a process that invites you to think about different ideas, about different aspects of stories. It raises technical questions about how do I write, how do I do that. So I think that it's a rewarding experience for the reasons that I've just mentioned. So it's a pity to leave an idea unattended in this aspect. It's really worth the trouble of seeing on paper how it looks like once we're done.
Yes, and I will say, Marino, it's very important that you can submit your story in your own language. And this not only shows the diversity of the Commonwealth competition, but also it helps you just submit your work in your own language and the way you wrote it. I think that this is very important that the organization provides the translation for your story and use such good translation as we said with Lina. So I think it's a great opportunity for writers.
Thank you very much. Dear both, let me congratulate you once again for your great achievements in the Short Story Prize competition. And also let me thank you for this really interesting and I think productive discussion. I'm sure that our audience will enjoy this episode. Thank you again for your participation, and I'm looking forward to see you not in a virtual format, but I think with physical presence the next time.
Indeed. Many thanks, Marino, for having us, and it's equally a pleasure to be. It was equally a pleasure to be on the podcast, and we look forward to meeting you at some point. At least myself, when I get back to Cyprus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marino, for this opportunity. Thank you, Nikola. Keep writing. And thank you very much for this opportunity. It was great.
Thank you both of you. So, dear friends, thank you for watching another episode of the RCS video podcast series, and see you to the next one. Bye-bye.